Now, to the passing of an icon of 1990s TV. This is breaking news just in the last hour or so. The U.S. actor Luke Perry has died just a few days after suffering a stroke. Perry, of course, for people of my generation, is best known for his role as Dylan McKay in Beverly Hills 90210. The character was brooding and dangerous, and that made him all the more appealing to many viewers. And Luke Perry, very young, dying at the age of 52. But he became a star with a much younger generation, acting up until his death. I want to bring in Stephanie Elam from Los Angeles because he was on a show on cable called Riverdale. So we'd heard a few days ago that Luke Perry had a stroke, but people can recover from strokes. In fact, make full recovery from strokes. So it was quite a shock to hear today that he'd passed away, Stephanie.
It's super shocking, Hala, and 52 is just way too young to be gone. But you're right. You point out that people of our generation were all about Luke Perry because he did play Dylan McKay on 90210. And now it's very possible that fans of that show, that their children are fans of Riverdale, that comes on the CW here in the United States. And on that show, he plays the father of Archie Andrews. He plays Fred Andrews. So that's what his role is currently. Right now, he was still in the midst of shooting that show when he passed away. But we now know that he has had a massive stroke last week. And that is what led to this lack of recovery here. In fact, we've got a statement that has been put out by his publicist that said that he was surrounded by his children, Jack and Sophie. His fiance was there, Wendy Madison Bauer, as well as his ex-wife, Minnie Sharp, she's also an actress. His mother was there. His stepfather was with him, brother and sister, and some close friends. Obviously, shocking news that this has come out. I mean, he really was an icon of 90s television being on that show. And so it wouldn't be surprising that we would hear from some of his co-stars. And Ian Ziering, who played Steve Sanders on 90210, if you remember, he did send out a tweet. I just want to read it to you right now. Within the last hour or so, he wrote, "Dearest Luke, I will forever bask in the loving memories we've shared over the last 30 years. May your journey forward be enriched by the magnificent souls who have passed before you, just like you have done here for those you leave behind." So just devastating news. His children, I think his son is in his early 20s, a daughter is in her late teens, just to think about all that goes into it. But this is a man who, while he did play that brooding teenager, really wanted to play different roles. And so you saw him go on and take on different roles, like 8 Seconds. He was also in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the movie, not the TV show. He did many different things. John from Cincinnati, many different roles that he took on to show that he was more complex than just playing that brooding teenager that so many people fell in love with back in the day.
In fact, there's a reboot of 90210. He hadn't signed on to be part of it, and he'd said in the past that he'd moved on from that role. But internationally, I mean, I just anecdotally on Twitter, 90210 was a huge international hit, syndicated in dozens and dozens of countries, translated in dozens and dozens of languages. So this is the type of 90s hit that really transcended the United States and kind of exported this early 90s genre around the world.
And they really did become household names, the actors on the show, for the characters that they played. And they were connected to them forever. I think you wouldn't be surprised to see that people talk about it. In fact, just to give you an idea of how huge it was, in 1991, Luke Perry went to a mall in Florida to sign some autographs. They expected 2,000 people would be there. Some 10,000 people showed up. They had to close the mall. It was such a big deal because people were such a fan of Dylan McKay, of this character that Luke Perry had created. And so it was something that I think for a lot of the characters on the show, for the actors on the show, it was hard to get away from those characters to do other things. And it was something he felt strongly about. And it is interesting to note that they're going to reboot 90210, and they announced it on the same day that he had this stroke. And he had said that he wasn't going to be a part of it. But a lot of his former co-stars do plan on being a part of that reboot.
All right, Stephanie Elam, thanks very much. There with the sad news that Luke Perry, the star of 90210, later Riverdale, has died at the age of 52 after suffering a stroke.